Men in Black, the Herbert Hopkins 1976 encounter. One evening in late 1976, 58-year-old Dr Hopkins, who was acting as a consultant on an alleged UFO case, received a phone call whilst the rest of his family were out for the evening. He answered the phone, and a man identifying himself as Vice President of the New Jersey UFO Research Organization asked if he might visit that evening to discuss some details of the case he had been working on. Dr Hopkins agreed to the request and then proceeded to turn the outside porch light on to make it easier for his guest to find his home. As he did, he saw a man making his way to the house. He was already climbing the steps. At this juncture, Mr. Hopkins thought to himself, "I don't know who this man is. I did not even ask his name." Mr. Hopkins' dog acted out of character, barking at Mr. Hopkins' guest, and then hiding in the closet. This unusual visitor wore a white shirt and gloves, and a black bowler hat, trousers and jacket. His clothes were immaculate. They both headed towards the living room and sat down opposite each other. Dr. Hopkins' visitor took off his hat. Dr. Hopkins noticed that his guest had no hair or eyebrows. He had a very small nose and small ears, with a receded chin, and he had a very pale, almost white skin tone. His lips, however, were striking bright red. At some point during the conversation, this character wiped his mouth on the back of his glove, and it was clear he was wearing lipstick. They spoke of the UFO case Dr. Hopkins is working on, and his guest seemed to already know all the answers. Apparently satisfied with the information collected from Hopkins, the visitor changed the subject. He told Dr. Hopkins that he had 2 coins in his pocket and asked him to take one of them out. How does he know Dr. Hopkins has 2 coins in his pocket? He agreed and took 1 coin out, a shiny new penny. He was told to hold his hand open and place the coin in the centre of his palm. He was then told by his curious visitor to focus his attention on the coin in his open hand. Again, Dr. Hopkins complied. Firstly, it appeared to go silvery, and then it seemed to start fading. Dr. Hopkins found it difficult to focus on the coin, even though he could focus perfectly well on the rest of his hand. Just a short time later, the coin disappeared altogether. Next, Dr. Hopkins was told that the coin would never be seen again in this existence or dimension. The subject then moved on. Dr. Hopkins was asked by this entity if he was familiar with the Barney and Betty Hill incident, a couple who had allegedly been abducted by aliens, and if he knew about Barney's death. Hopkins replied that he had heard of Barney Hill, but was under the impression that he had died in the not too distant past. The man in black confirmed that this was the case. He went on to say that Barney Hill does not have a heart, meaning it is not in his body, just like you do not have a coin. Next, Mr. Hopkins noticed that his guest's speech started to slow down, almost like in slow motion. He very slowly rised to his feet.
"My energy is running low. I must go now. Goodbye."
They made their way through the house to the porch, where the entity slowly went down the steps, heading towards the parking lot. Dr. Hopkins saw a very bright light coming from the parking lot area, a blue-white light, much brighter than a normal car headlight. Dr. Hopkins made his way to the kitchen window, where he saw that the light was gone and no vehicle left the parking lot. With fright, shock and confusion, Dr. Hopkins sat at the table in the kitchen to give himself a moment or two in order to digest the events of the evening. He also had his revolver within reach, just in case he felt he needed it. Having his life threatened by a clearly intelligent but non-human being was too much for Dr. Hopkins to bear, and reluctantly he began gathering everything from the UFO case, all the paperwork and the audio sound tapes. He cut the tape into countless pieces, tore the paperwork and then burnt the lot. Later, he found out that the New Jersey UFO Research Organisation did not exist. Also, he had an unexplained problem with his telephone line. His patients claimed that they could not contact Dr. Hopkins on the telephone, or if they were successful, it would cut off unexplainably partway through the call. Even the local phone company could not work out what was wrong with his line and said that it was being tampered with, but they were perplexed as to how. Dr. Hopkins never did see that strange character again. While some believe the Men in Black to be a top-secret governmental department, tasked with suppressing evidence and reports of UFO sightings or extraterrestrial encounters, there is a growing number of researchers who are coming over to the idea that they are in fact extraterrestrials themselves, who wish to stay away from Earthlings' gaze. Rather than authorities covering up alleged extraterrestrial activities, there does appear to be a growing amount of evidence that at least some races of extraterrestrial beings do not want mainstream human beings to be aware of their existence. Some researchers have suggested that extraterrestrials treat the Earth like a laboratory, so perhaps it isn't in their interests for the mainstream population to know. Another video I have done, titled Secrets of the Alien Agenda, gives more details on this idea, and you should definitely check it out if you haven't seen it already. If reports such as these are to be believed, I do find it disturbing that a race of intelligent beings that are clearly much more technologically advanced and have had much longer to look at their own laws, procedures and their rights and wrongs would act in a way that is not dissimilar to human medieval times. When you cut through all the packaging material, the entity's message was, "Do what I tell you to do, or you will die." I know it was not put quite like that, but that clearly was the message, just the same. We make content covering all aspects of the paranormal and unexplained, so please like, subscribe and take a look at my other content. Thanks for tuning in.